When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite, looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, the profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
Hey everyone, this is Otis Anderson, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest is a former professional football running back who has 14 years of service in the NFL, starting with the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Football Giants, in the words of Chris Berman.
He's gone! He could go all the way!
So he's also come out of the U in University of Miami and has many accomplishments. Let's see. The one I can think of off the top of my head is a Super Bowl MVP, as well as he is only one of 4 running backs to have scored a touchdown in 2 different Super Bowls. And that list includes guys like Franco Harris, John Riggins beforehand, and Emmitt Smith to do it afterwards. Our guest, Otis Anderson. Otis, how you doing, sir?
Hello. Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for that intro, man.
Hey, I tried a little bit, so well, I guess first and foremost I want to ask, because you hear statistics, all that fun shit, that the average NFL career is 3.5 years. You had 14 productive seasons, especially at a tough position as running back. How are you feeling now?
Not bad. I got to hit you my giddy up, but that's only because I'm just old. That's it.
Yeah, because especially your running backs take a hell of a beating. So, and the other thing, I was talking to somebody earlier about this too, and because I'm based in the Philadelphia area, and I was speaking to a former Philadelphia Flyer actually recently. He was on the Stanley Cup teams. And he was talking about his coach's famous quote about being together forever as part of a championship team. Is it nuts when you go out in the New York, North Jersey area and people recognize you?
It's still a pleasure and to have fans still remember, the two Super Bowls that I was part of and the one that I was MVP of. It is a good feeling. It's over 30 years, and they still speak to me about it and how elated they are about the success that me and my teammates had. So it's always a good honor.
And obviously, you are a Florida boy, born West Palm area, etc. And then, like I said, you went to University of Miami, who over the years had great teams and legendary players to come through that school. Did you ever think you'd have the success you had playing professional football?
Well, the years that I played in Miami, we weren't as dominant and it was called Miami, unlike the new word, the U. Um, my senior year was the first time in over 30 something years that Miami had a winning season, and that season we finished 6-5, and Howard came in that's the very next year, and we go to the Peach Bowl, and and then from that point on, the program kind of turned itself around. Um, coming from West Palm Beach, being the number one recruit as far as Palm Beach County was concerned and considered, which was part of Belgrade, Pahokee, and then you got Suncoast at the time, and John I. Leonard. So it was a lot of high schools that were in the area that weren't bad, but to be deemed the top kickoff and punt returner in the county and also one of the best running backs in the county. So was I surprised? Um, I couldn't tell you that I knew all of this would end up being the career that I ended up having. No, but a lot of people felt and thought that I could, and you just never know.
Yeah, and like I said, when you went to Miami and years after, the class of athlete that came out of there, you had guys like yourself. Years later, Warren Sapp and some guy who didn't make it in football, Dwayne Johnson. I don't know what he ever did. Michael Irving. They're just a list of folks. And that stories from those particular teams around the late '80s, early '90s are legendary. But St. Louis drafts you in '79 there, and you end up rookie of the year and two-time Pro Bowler and such. How was St. Louis as a sports town? Because when I think about it from my age group at 41, they were when you think St. Louis, it was mostly just baseball you would think about. So how was it from a football town standpoint?
It was a baseball town. The Cardinals had been successful baseball wise, and that's what the fans knew. And we was always second citizen. I can recall one of the situations that really proved how much we were second citizen there. We played the Bears at one season, and we was all on the elevator, players and fans, and few of the Chicago Bears fan saw us and go like, "Whoa, you guys are pretty big guys. What do you guys are? The St. Louis baseball Cardinals?" So even the mass size that we had, people still thought we were baseball players. So yeah, it was tough, but it was worthy of it because we didn't do anything. So we never had one this season the whole 7 years that I was in St. Louis. Well, I take that back. The strike year we did. We did the strike year because we was able to go to the playoff. So yeah, the strike year.
Okay. So, and obviously, like I said, being from the Northeast, it's a different mentality. So, what was it like for you, especially in the middle of the season, getting traded St. Louis to New York? And obviously, the Giants were such a tough team. You had guys like Harry Carson, who's a Hall of Famer, and LT, and you had all these guys that was like Phil Simms you played with, and just it's mind-boggling with the talent. So was that a hard transition to go to a winning team at that point?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Being at St. Louis, we hadn't won anything, and that season we were 1-5, and the Giants was 5-1. So, I laugh and tell the story. I went from the outhouse to the penthouse, but it was a hard culture to get used to, and that was because every level with the Cardinals we didn't win, and I was used to not winning, so my attitude for success was totally different. As the season went on and I was traded, as the season went on, I always felt that when it came to certain games, we weren't going to be able to pull it out because as a Cardinal, we would lead most teams up to the third quarter, and then we would not be able to finish it. So when I was on the Giants, and we would do the same thing, and I just had that loser man mentality that what can go wrong will go wrong. But every game seemed like we got better and better, and we were able to pull out games that were suspect games. And after a while, you develop a winning attitude when you start winning games that you should lose or thought you're going to lose. And once you start believing that you can win, it's a whole different mindset.
Did somebody have to check you per se in the locker room and pull you aside, go, "Hey, man, this is what's going on here," even though you knew they were winning, if that makes sense? Because old school with police in the locker room themselves.
Yeah, our locker room was that way. We had players that we knew that were authoritators for us, and that was no doubt about the fact that we didn't have to do anything but do what Parcells called do your job, and that's what we did. So, I mean, my first year there, we had George Martin, Eric Carson, and they were the two focal points and players on the team that commanded the attention and commanded the respect and police. If we needed to police ourselves, they were the guys that were the ones that would definitely lay down the hammer. But again, we didn't have that many players that was disobedient that needed that to happen other than Toast, back in the day. Elvis Patterson, he was one of the wild child at that time, but even he got policed by those guys as well.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, and I appreciate that story. I wasn't saying that you were coming in as a jackass or an attitude. Just meant, hey, man, from the playing standpoint, the mentality. But I heard that, and obviously times were different when you were traded. They pulled you aside in St. Louis for a phone call with Parcells, and you thought it was a prank or a rib. Is that true?
That's true. We were good. The Cardinals, we were good at practical jokes with Lomax, Roy Green, and Leonard Smith, and myself were good pranksters. So, and most of the time, Leonard Roy and I always were together, and we know we prank each other a lot. So well, I actually thought that's what it was. So when they did mention about me being traded, I didn't believe it because nobody in the locker room believed it. The head trainer, they didn't know anything about it. Phone had not reached, the message had not reached the training room at that particular time. The equipment man, had not received anything. So if you got those many people who has not heard anything about a trade, well, you inclined not to believe it. And that's who I was. So I was inclined not to believe it. So I was like, so I didn't believe. And then Parcells called back, and next thing you know, I was like, oh. And his comment was, can you get here today? Which was on a Wednesday, and he wanted me to get there. I got the message like 2, which was 3 o'clock New York, New Jersey time. And he wanted me there by 5 or 6 at night. I was like, no, I had to go back home and put the message down to the missus. It was a lot had to be done. And I told him I'd probably be there on Thursday morning. And he said, be there Thursday because I was playing on Sunday.
Now,
Yeah.
what kind of conversation? And Bill Parcells is obviously a legendary coach and everything else and broadcaster. But you get there Thursday morning, and what kind of conversation was that like for you to what was he expecting of you and your role for the team?
Well, he basically told me on the phone before I got there. He said, listen, he said, we have Joe Mars. He's having an excellent year. We just need some diversity in the fullback position. I know you're a halfback or running back, and I know this is not a position that you normally would be doing. But teams are starting to pick up tendencies with us when Maurice Cawthon and Joe Mars in the game that 80% of the time the ball going into Joe Mars. So we need to try to break up that tendencies, and we feel if you learn the fullback position as well as the halfback position, we can have you enjoying the game at the same time, and teams will have a problem trying to figure out who's going to get the ball. So that's what I need you to do and be able to do. And also, your insurance policy. Something go wrong with Joe, because Joe, again, was having a great year. Something go wrong with Joe, we got you to plug you in. Because at the time, the running backs was Maurice Cawthon, Joe Mars, Lee Roussan, and I believe Tony Galbert was there. And then yours truly. I think that's what's the 5 of us.
Right on. So obviously, be hesitant not to bring this up. And by the way, I will say this publicly. Thank you, Alex, for setting this up. He was just texting me as we've been talking. But yeah, we had 2 different Super Bowl championship teams with the Giants during your tenure. Super Bowl 21 and Super Bowl 25, which in 25 you won the MVP. What would, from a guy who's been around the game for all that time, what would you say is the biggest difference in the teams, 21 versus 25?
21, we knew we were going to win. 21, they had just lost the year before to the Chicago Bears in the playoff game where Sean Ladetta was making a punt, and it was so windy that the ball blew and he missed the punt and stuff like that. But that team knew that they were close and should have been into the playoff that season, but for that unfortunate situation, and other things happened too. But that's one of the things that everybody talks about was that. But there was a lot of other reasons why they didn't go to the playoffs at that particular time. But I recall that when I got there, George Martin, one of the guys who came over to me and said, "We're going to the Super Bowl now. We got the juice." So that was good knowing that he felt that way, and then the rest of the guys also greeted me. But the reason why was I've had such success playing against them for 7 years. So they say you can't beat them, you join them. So that's part of how they looked at it as well.
And 25, how would you describe that team? You know, was there a big difference? Because, like you said, 21, you had a feeling that you guys were going to win and such. But how was the mentality and such a couple years later?
Well, we knew we were a decent team, but we weren't as dominant and defensively as the 21 team was. Our confidence as far as knowing that we were the better team every time we stepped on the field was not true. So we knew we had to crawl, crawl our way to success. We had to be pretty flawless, on mistakes. So it was a lot of things that had to go right for us to win. And not only that, the Eagles were so dominant. I mean, they were the team that really was so dominant, and thank God that Chicago beat them. But that was a team that we knew that we had issues with, and had we met them, they would have probably beat us all 3 times.
Yeah, and it was that defense at the time. You got, guys like Reggie White and such that were.
Yeah, Reggie, Jerome Brown, Seth Joyner, Wes Hopkins, Dirty Waters, Mike Quick. They had a set of players over there that can get out there, especially defensively. So yeah, it was definitely a blessing that they lost to Chicago.
Yeah, that was, if I remember correctly, a Buddy Ryan team, that's for sure. But
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I was talking to, or you wouldn't notice, but I had a chance at a collectible show to be introduced to a Hall of Fame running back that kind of came in towards the second half of your career. And I actually asked him about Reggie White in particular, because I grew up a Reggie fan.
Mhm.
How tough was, and he said, I should finish this up. Shame I'm not drinking yet. No. But I said, how was Reggie? He goes, I love the guy off the field. If I seen him any other environment besides between the white lines, let's have a beer, let's have dinner. He's a guy you'd want to be around, right? He said, when it was game time, good Lord, he goes, I still get shivers up my spine thinking about playing against him. What was it like playing against a guy like Reggie White for you?
Well, they call him the minister of defense, and you can't overlook that. That's not that many players that come through your era that is dominant. As a player like Reggie. I mean, can I put him in the same boat as Lawrence? Absolutely. Reggie by far would have been a GOAT, no doubt about it. He was just a beast trying to block, and he was just such a good player, and you know when you play against Philly, you better wear your hard hat, because that's what they brought to the table. Consistency and just toughness was Reggie, and he showed that every game, and the players around him fed off him, and he was just an incredible player. It's just freaking incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely. So obviously, like I said, you won the Super Bowl MVP for Super Bowl 25. I won't rub it into contributor of the show, Brian Young, who's a guy from Buffalo. I will not rub it in that Scott Norwood may have missed a field goal wide right. No, but I like to tease him. So obviously things happen like they do. And it's scary. We're coming up here in a few weeks on Super Bowl 60. And so will you be going out to California at all for anything related to the Super Bowl?
Well, unfortunately, guys like myself who has have a pretty good resume, the NFL don't have really anything for us to do. Us legends and alumni players, they have made it clear that the Super Bowl and all the antics is around the current players, and And it's a young. I remember when I was young, it seemed like all the mature players were always there, and there was always event for them to do, and you was always happy to meet them and experience some of the stories you got from those guys. But the NFL, just don't create that atmosphere for alumni players anymore. So I know I don't go out unless it's something to do with the MVPs. Other than that, it's just not been created for players from my era to be a part of anymore. And again, the NFL, that's what they got. That's the mentality they have. And the only way you do go out there, if for instance the Giants were in it, then that would be opportunities to go out because it's Giant fans driven, and it's always that way. Whatever team is in it, it's driven by those particular team fans, and there's no room for outsiders that are not a part of have played with that team or teams.
Does that bother you though, that you, as someone who is on a short list of guys, whether it be as an MVP and such, that even though the Giants aren't out there or won't be out there, that you just don't get a call for an invite?
No, it don't bother me at all. I had my run of things when I was early part of my career. I think after Super Bowl 25, I think I went to quite a few other Super Bowls that was catered to, again, players that was at that time early 20s and mid 30s, and that was not much for anybody older than that. And so I had my run of the things, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun. And the last one I went to was, I think it was Super Bowl 30, no, 50, I think it was. We did a anniversary or something like that. I think it was Super Bowl 50, 50 years of Super Bowl. I think that's the last one I went to. I know it was in California. I forget who performed at halftime because I probably would tell you what Super Bowl it was, but it was fun though. It was we got together and we all took pictures together, and I still have those memories of that. I think Brady had been there, and Brady had won like 2 championships at the time, 2 or 3. So it had to be like Super Bowl 50 something, I think it was.
Right on. As we come towards the end of this, and thank you for the time, Otis. What is your relationship currently with the Giants? Do you have a good relationship, or is it indifferent?
My relationship is excellent with the Giants. I'm considered one of their ambassadors when they're at the event, whether it's for the sponsorship where they invite players to entertain some of the sponsors they have, or suite visits that they have during the season, and also their community service. Stephen Baker and I are 2 of their mainstay of players who's always answering the bell on the behalf of the Giants organization. So yeah, they keep us pretty busy. They have us doing things pretty much year round, whether it's community service work, making an appearance on their behalf, or some sort of sponsorship relationship they're trying to build or has built, and we would normally come through and be a part of the either a lunch, breakfast, or a dinner, and so they keep us there. Yeah.
That's awesome here, do the whole taking pictures, signing autographs, all the fun stuff. But last question for you. Like I said, we're approaching Super Bowl 60. Who do you think we're going into championship weekend this weekend? Obviously, we're going to be probably snowed in here in the Northeast. Are you looking forward to watching the championship games, and who you think is going to go on to the Super Bowl?
Well, I was talking to one of my ex-teammates, Curtis Greer, earlier today, and he predict the Rams and the Patriots, and the only reason why he said that is he just don't see how Denver could beat the Patriots with the backup quarterback. I said, well, we did it with Hostetler. He said, yeah, but Hostetler had some games under his belt before he got into that position. I said, true that. And he just feels that the Rams are just that dominant of a team over Seattle. I think it's going to be Seattle and Denver. Really, my pick. I'm just opposite him, and I just think that Seattle play very well. They have some players that are very impactful players, and I think we could give the Rams some problems here and there. And I think with Sean Payton, who has a very creative mind and was an understudy of Parcells for a long time back in the day. So I think he would put him in a position to to win. And if you just do his part and not try to do more than that, I think they got a good chance of winning it all. And it's funny because even though he hadn't had any play per se, if you listen to Sean Payton, he tells you that that's one of the reasons why we had him here. We knew what he could do. We seen him play. We knew a lot about him. I think he was with Sean before on another team, and that's what he was looking forward to, and that's what he saw. So that's my pick. But my only thing that I constantly talk about, and no, I can't say constantly talk about. I just still feel that the NFL has not figured it out yet, have not got it right yet, is because why am yours truly still sitting outside the Hall of Fame and as far as credentials, which if that's what they're going by, should have been in a long time ago, especially when you look at the fact when I retired in 93, I was the 8th leading rusher in the history of the NFL, 8th leading rusher. 7 of the guys in front of me are Hall of Famers. How I get jumped, So that's
absolutely.
my great. Yeah. So that's
if
my
we go to statistics,
I just don't know what they judge it. How they judging it? How they judging it? Because if you look at player that and again I tell people Terrell Davis, I got nothing against Terrell, was a hell of a ball player, but you put my stats against his stats and it don't add up. But he's a Hall of Famer, and you can look down the list. I think there are some more running backs in there, and I just think of the modern day Terrell Davis because he was doing after my era and still young enough to remember. But if you go back through there's players back there who are in there that way less accomplishment as myself and even Terrell, but they're in there. So have I been by my time? Absolutely. Am I bitter about it? No, I'm okay. It is what it is. Again, I just nobody explained to me why not. As Herman Elwood was saying, why not? And that's where I'm at. Why not? So it's all good.
But like you said, if we're looking at the numbers, you qualify just as much as many of the other guys in that spot.
Yeah. I've been hearing that for what? I've been out over 30 years. I've been hearing that for over 30 years. My stats add up, but yet no call. But, I'm getting close. That's all I said. I get close. I've been inducted to the Giants Ring of Honor. I've been inducted to the Miami Hurricanes Ring of Honor. Nothing from St. Louis, but that's okay. I still own all of their records. After all these years, I'm still the all-time leading rusher in the Cardinals' history. So I don't know if that's worth anything. Over 10,000 yards, 85, 86 touchdowns I think I got. Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year, NFC Player of the Year in 79. 2-time Pro Bowl starter.
Comeback Player of the Year.
Player of the Year. And 2-time Super Bowl champion with an MVP on the belt. 2 touchdowns scored in each of the touchdowns scored in each one of the Super Bowls. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you need. I don't know.
Yeah, and that was the stat I was referencing during the introduction with the touchdowns and such. With only 4 of you, there's 4 of you: Riggins, Smith, yourself, and
Franco.
Yeah. So it was another Jersey. He's a Jersey guy, from down in my neck of the woods.
Yeah. Right.
So, Otis, I appreciate the time, man. But folks, as you hear this, let the Hall of Fame know you want this man in. Just based on everything we talked about and your own research, he needs to be in there. It'd be nice to have that check mark.
Yeah, that's on the spot. That's not checked in my resume, but I just hope that it happens while I'm above ground and I can receive my roses and flowers above ground and not after the fact. But if it come, it comes, and when it come, it comes. So I just every chance I get, I let people know, as well as people let me know, that it's an honor that should have been given a long time ago. But it is what it is at the end of the day.
Yes, sir. Otis, thank you so much for the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey folks, looking for the ultimate destination for the nerd enthusiasts and collectors? Well, we found the spot for you. Nerds Nest Collectibles is a haven for nerds, geeks, and fans alike, as they have many different products and certainly more to come. Make sure you go ahead and visit them at nerdsnestcollectibles.com. Check them out.
Hey, boils and ghouls, David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown himself, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio. Choo choo!
Yeah, yeah!